The shuttle's dying alarms screamed through Mara's helmet as her body refused to move. She lay face up in the dirt, staring at the purple sky of Kithara Prime, paralyzed from the neck down. The neurotoxin from the Vrexian spike trap had worked fast, too fast. "Command, this is Ranger Mara Flynn. I'm hit. Can't move. Shuttle's gone." Her voice cracked. Static answered. Around her, thousands of stone markers jutted from the ground like broken teeth. The Vrexian burial ground stretched for miles in every direction, ancient, sacred, forbidden, and she'd crashed right into the middle of it. Her squad had left her. She'd heard their boots pounding away through the dirt when the Vrexian patrol ships appeared on the horizon. Standard protocol. Don't risk 6 lives for 1 paralyzed soldier. She understood. She hated it, but she understood. The purple sky darkened. 2 suns setting meant the temperature would drop 40 degrees in 20 minutes. Her suit's heating unit had shattered in the crash. She'd freeze before the toxin wore off. If it wore off, something moved between the grave markers. Mara's heart hammered. Her eyes were the only part of her that still worked. She tracked the shadow as it weaved through the stones. Too tall for Vrexian. Too quiet for their war machines. A figure emerged from behind a massive obelisk 30 meters away. Human. Male. Wearing scorched armor that looked like it had survived atmospheric re-entry. His face was hidden behind a cracked visor, but she could see his head turning, scanning the graveyard. He spotted her shuttle's wreckage first. Smoke still poured from the engines. Then his helmet turned toward her position. "Hey!" Mara tried to shout, but her voice came out as a whisper. The suit's external speakers were damaged. He couldn't hear her. The man started moving toward the shuttle, not toward her. Panic flooded Mara's chest. The graves hid her from his angle. He'd check the wreckage, find it empty, and leave. She tried to scream. Nothing. Tried to move her fingers. Nothing. The stranger reached the shuttle and climbed inside. Mara watched, helpless, as her only chance at survival disappeared into the smoke. Seconds crawled past. The temperature gauge in her HUD dropped another degree. Then he emerged, holding something. Her emergency beacon. He'd found it in the cockpit. He activated it, and the device pulsed once before dying completely, destroyed in the crash. Useless. But he didn't leave. Instead, he stood perfectly still, head tilted like he was listening. Then he turned slowly, deliberately, scanning the graveyard in sections. His helmet stopped moving when it pointed directly at her position. He started running, not toward the shuttle, toward her. Through the graves, over the uneven ground, moving with the kind of speed that came from pure desperation. Mara's vision blurred with relief as his boots appeared in her peripheral view. He dropped to his knees beside her. "Found you," he said. The stranger's gloved hands moved across her suit with practiced efficiency. He checked her vitals display, cursed under his breath, then pulled a scanner from his belt. "Vrexian neurotoxin, stage 2 paralysis." His voice was rough, like he'd been screaming. "You've got maybe 90 minutes before it hits your lungs. Then your heart." Mara wanted to ask who he was. Wanted to ask why he was here. Wanted to ask anything, but her jaw wouldn't move. He understood anyway. "Name's Connor Blake. Freelance recovery specialist. Was tracking a Vrexian weapons cache when I saw your shuttle go down." He worked while he talked, pulling medical supplies from a pack that looked military but wasn't standard issue. "Your crew left you?" Mara managed the tiniest movement with her eyes. A blink. "Yes. Figures." Connor jabbed a syringe into the port on her suit's collar. Warmth flooded her veins immediately. "That's a metabolic accelerant. Won't cure the toxin, but it'll buy you time. Maybe 3 hours instead of 90 minutes. The ground shook. A low rumble rolled across the graveyard like distant thunder. Connor's head snapped up, visor scanning the horizon. Vrexian patrol. "They heard your beacon before it died." He stood, slinging his rifle around. "We need to move now." He couldn't carry her. The terrain was too rough and they'd be too slow. Mara could see the calculation in his body language as he looked between her and the approaching rumble. "Listen carefully," Connor said, kneeling again. "I'm going to rig a distraction. Lead them away from this sector. There's a cave system 2 clicks north. Old Vrexian catacombs. They won't follow me there. Sacred ground rules and all that." He pulled out a small device and pressed it into the dirt beside her head. This is a low-frequency transmitter. Once I draw them off, a friend of mine will pick up the signal. She'll come for you." The rumbling grew louder. Mara could see dust rising in the distance. Multiple vehicles. "She?" Mara managed to whisper through clenched teeth. Connor actually laughed. "Yeah. She's going to be pissed I got involved in this." He checked his rifle's charge. "Her name's Victoria Lang. Former combat medic, best field surgeon in 3 sectors. She'll get that toxin out of you." He stood and started running toward the eastern edge of the graveyard, away from both Mara and the approaching patrol. After 20 meters he stopped, turned, and fired 3 bright flares into the sky. They burst like miniature suns, impossible to miss. The Virexian vehicles changed direction immediately, all of them, chasing the flares. Chasing Connor. He took off at a full sprint, disappearing between the grave markers as the first energy blasts tore up the ground behind him. Mara counted 6 vehicles, heavy armor, weapons that could vaporize a human in one shot. Connor was fast, but he wasn't that fast. The transmitter beside her head beeped softly, active, waiting. Mara lay there, paralyzed, listening to the distant sounds of weapons fire, explosions, the high-pitched whine of Rexian engines. Connor was leading them on a chase through sacred ground, violating every treaty rule, making himself the biggest target on the planet. For her, a stranger. 10 minutes passed. The sounds of combat moved farther away, then stopped completely. Silence pressed down on the graveyard. Mara's temperature gauge dropped another 3 degrees. Her oxygen supply showed 82%. The metabolic accelerant was working, keeping her alive, but she could feel the toxin still spreading. Deeper, slower, but relentless. The transmitter beeped again, stronger this time. Something moved in the sky. Not Rexian. The engine signature was wrong. Too smooth. Too quiet. A small ship dropped through the clouds like a falling knife. Black hull. No markings. It killed its engines 50 meters up and landed on thrusters alone, touching down between 2 massive obelisks without disturbing a single stone. The hatch opened before the landing struts fully deployed. A woman jumped out, medical kit already in her hands, dark hair pulled back tight, eyes that missed nothing. She crossed the distance to Mara in seconds, dropping beside her with the focused intensity of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. "Victoria Lang," she said, not looking up from her scanner. "And you're lucky Connor's got a hero complex." She jabbed 3 syringes into Mara's suit ports in rapid succession. "These will counteract the toxin. You'll feel like you're on fire for about 30 seconds. Then you'll feel like you're dying for about 2 minutes. Then you'll be fine." "Connor," Mara whispered. Victoria's jaw tightened. He knew what he was doing. She pulled out a portable med scanner and ran it over Mara's spine. "Toxins reached your thoracic vertebrae. Another 20 minutes and you'd be gone." Her hands moved with surgical precision, setting up an IV line. "You saved your life. Now I'm going to finish the job." The first injection hit Mara's system like liquid lightning. Victoria wasn't lying about the fire. Mara's nervous system ignited. Every nerve ending from her scalp to her toes burned with electrical agony. She tried to scream, but her lungs were still frozen. The sound came out as a choked gasp. "Breathe through it," Victoria said, her voice clinical and steady. "The antitoxin is forcing your nerves to reactivate. It's going to hurt." Hurt was an understatement. Mara's vision went white. Her back arched as feeling exploded back into her limbs. Pins and needles multiplied by 1,000. Her fingers twitched, her toes curled, her jaw unlocked with a crack that sent fresh pain shooting through her skull. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the fire died. Mara gasped, sucking in air like she'd been underwater. Her chest heaved, her hands clenched into fists. She could move. "Good," Victoria said, already packing her medical kit. "We've got about 4 minutes before those Rexian patrols circle back. Can you stand?" Mara rolled onto her side, muscles screaming in protest. Everything felt wrong. Too sensitive. Too raw, but functional. She pushed herself up onto her knees, then her feet. Her legs shook but held. "Where's Connor?" she asked. Victoria's expression darkened. "He led them into the catacombs. 6 vehicles, full squad. He's got enough explosives to collapse half the tunnel system, but—" An explosion rolled across the graveyard. Distant but massive. The ground trembled. Dust and debris founted into the purple sky 3 kilometers to the north. Victoria's comm unit crackled. "Vic, I hope you got her because I just made about 1,000 Vrexians very, very angry." Connor's voice. Alive. Victoria activated her transmitter. "I've got her. She's mobile." "What's your status?" "Collapsed the main entrance. Bought us maybe 10 minutes before they dig through or find another way in." The sound of running footsteps came through the connection. Heavy breathing. "I'm heading deeper. There's an old transit hub in the lower levels. Might be a way out." "Might be?" Victoria's voice sharpened. "Would you prefer definitely trapped?" Connor shot back. Weapons fire echoed in the background. "They're already in the secondary tunnels. I've got company." Mara grabbed Victoria's arm. "We have to help him." "That's a terrible idea," Victoria said flatly. "He created a diversion so we could escape." "That was the plan. Plans change." Mara was already moving toward Victoria's ship. Her legs were steadier now, adrenaline overriding the lingering pain. "He saved my life. I'm not leaving him to die in some hole." Victoria stared at her for 3 full seconds. Then she cursed in 2 languages and ran for the ship. "Get in. Strap down. And if we both die doing this, I'm haunting Connor for eternity." The ship lifted off before Mara's harness was fully locked. Victoria flew like she was racing death itself, skimming 5 meters above the grave markers at speeds that made Mara's stomach drop. The catacombs entrance appeared ahead, a massive crater where Connor's explosives had brought down half a cliff face. Vrexian troops swarmed the rubble, dozens of them, heavy combat armor, plasma rifles. They were already digging, moving tons of rock with mechanized efficiency. "They'll be through in minutes," Victoria said. "We need another entrance." Mara pulled up a tactical map on the ship's display. The Vrexian catacomb system was enormous. Hundreds of tunnels, dozens of access points, most collapsed or sealed centuries ago. But there, northern quadrant, a maintenance shaft that connected to the lower transit hub. "There," Mara pointed. 2 kilometers northeast. Vertical shaft, 50 meters deep. Victoria banked hard, the ship's engine screaming. That shaft could be blocked. Could be flooded. Could be full of Vrexian defense drones that haven't been deactivated in 300 years. Could be Connor's only way out, Mara countered. Victoria didn't argue. She just flew faster. They reached the shaft in 90 seconds. A narrow opening in the ground, barely wide enough for the ship. Sensors showed it was clear all the way down. Empty. Too empty. "This feels like a trap," Victoria muttered. "Everything today feels like a trap," Mara said. "Take us down." Victoria dropped the ship into the shaft like a stone. Vertical descent. No room for error. The walls blurred past. 50 meters. 40, 30. The shaft opened into a massive underground chamber at the bottom. Ancient Vrexian architecture. Enormous pillars carved with symbols. A transit platform that hadn't seen use in centuries. And Connor running full sprint across the platform with 20 Vrexian soldiers behind him. He saw the ship and changed direction without breaking stride. "Open the hatch!" Victoria hit the controls. The boarding ramp deployed while the ship was still 3 meters off the ground. Connor jumped, caught the edge of the ramp, and pulled himself inside as plasma fire tore through the space where he'd been standing. "Go, go, go!" he shouted. Victoria was already moving. The ship shot upward through the shaft as energy blasts hammered the hull. Alarms screamed. The shields held. Barely. They burst out of the shaft and into open air. Victoria pushed the engines to maximum, rocketing away from the graveyard at speeds that made the landscape blur. No pursuit. The Vrexians didn't follow. Connor lay on the deck, breathing hard, his armor scorched and dented. He looked up at Mara and grinned. "You can walk. Good. Vic's antitoxin works fast." "You're insane," Mara said. "Probably," Connor agreed. "But you're alive." Victoria's voice cut through from the cockpit. "We've got a problem." The ship's proximity alarms shrieked. Victoria's hands flew across the controls as 3 Vrexian interceptors dropped out of high orbit directly into their flight path. "They were waiting," Victoria said. "This wasn't random. They knew we'd run." Connor was on his feet instantly, moving to the weapons console. "How long until we hit the atmospheric boundary?" 2 minutes. Maybe less if I push it. Push it. The ship lurched forward. Mara grabbed a support rail as the acceleration slammed her backward. Through the viewport, she could see the interceptors adjusting course, matching their speed effortlessly. Sleek killing machines built for exactly this kind of chase. The lead interceptor fired. A plasma lance cut through the air, missing their port engine by meters. The heat wash alone sent the damage indicators spiking. Connor returned fire. The ship's defensive turrets spun up, spitting energy bursts at the pursuing craft. One interceptor peeled off, evading. The other two spread out, flanking. "They're boxing us in," Mara said, reading the tactical display, "trying to force us toward the canyons system." "Can't go to the canyons," Victoria said tersely. "Vrexian anti-air installations every 5 kilometers. We'd be shredded." Another plasma burst struck their aft shield. The generator whined in protest. Shield strength dropped to 60%. Connor's jaw set. "Mara, can you shoot?" "Yes." "Then get on the starboard turret. Vic, when I say brake, you brake hard left. Understand?" Victoria glanced back. "Connor, whatever you're planning, just trust me." Mara strapped into the starboard weapons station. The targeting system came online, feeding her a cascade of data. Distance, speed, projected trajectories. The two flanking interceptors were closing fast, preparing for a synchronized strike. "Mara, target the one on our right," Connor said. "Don't fire until I give the word." She locked on. Her finger hovered over the trigger. The interceptor filled her targeting reticule. 600 meters. 500. 400. "Now!" Connor shouted. Mara fired. Full burst. Every weapon on the starboard side opened up simultaneously. The Vrexian pilot never saw it coming. The concentrated fire overwhelmed his shields in seconds, tearing into the interceptor's engine core. It exploded in a brilliant flash, debris scattering across the sky. At the exact same moment, Victoria broke left so hard that the ship's structural integrity warning screamed. The maneuver threw off the second interceptor's firing solution completely. Its plasma lance went wide, missing by 50 meters, but the lead interceptor was still there, still firing. Still closing, Connor switched tactics. "Vic, full reverse thrust. That's suicide. Do it!" Victoria complied. The ship's engines reversed, killing their forward momentum in seconds. The sudden deceleration would have turned Mara's organs to paste if the inertial dampeners hadn't compensated. Even with them, she felt her vision gray at the edges. The lead interceptor shot past them, overshooting by 300 meters. For exactly 2 seconds, it was directly in front of them, exposed. Vulnerable. Connor didn't waste the opportunity. He fired everything, missiles, and energy weapons, even the ship's forward collision lasers. The interceptor's rear shields collapsed under the onslaught. Its engines detonated, sending the craft spinning out of control into the ground below. The third interceptor was already retreating, heading back toward Vrexian airspace. "Atmospheric boundary in 30 seconds, Victoria announced. Her hands were steady, but Mara could hear the tension in her voice. "If there are more ships waiting in orbit." "There won't be," Connor said. This was a pursuit force, not an ambush fleet. They sent what they had locally. He was right. The ship broke through the atmosphere without further contact. Stars appeared overhead. The curve of Kithara Prime fell away beneath them. Victoria set course for the nearest neutral jump point. "We need to get off this rock before they scramble a real response." "Where's your ship, Connor?" "Hidden in the asteroid belt near the fourth moon. We can rendezvous there, transfer Mara to something with proper medical facilities." Mara finally unstrapped from the weapons station. Her hands were shaking. Adrenaline crash. She'd gone from paralyzed and dying to shooting down alien interceptors in less than an hour. "Who are you people? Really?" Connor and Victoria exchanged a look. "We're freelancers," Victoria said carefully. "We take jobs that most people won't touch. Rescue operations, recovery missions, occasionally blowing up things that need to be blown up. You're mercenaries." "We prefer independent contractors," Connor said with a slight smile. "But yeah, basically," Mara looked between them. "My squad left me to die down there. Standard protocol. Acceptable losses. But you two risked everything to pull out a complete stranger." She paused. "Why?" Connor's smile faded. "Because someone did the same for me once, long time ago. Different planet, same situation." He met her eyes. "A human crew stumbled on me in a Karathi prison camp. paralyzed, half dead. They had zero reason to stop, but they did. Broke me out, saved my life. And because leaving people behind is what they do, Victoria added, her voice hard, it's what the military does, what corporations do, what every major faction does when the numbers don't work out. But humans, she gestured at the three of them, we're stubborn, we're illogical, and we don't leave our own behind, even when we should. The ship's navigation system chimed. They'd reached the jump point. Connor moved to the helm beside Victoria. Set coordinates for the belt. We'll lay low for a few days, make sure the Vrexians aren't tracking us. But Mara was still processing Victoria's words. We don't leave our own behind. She thought about her squad, about the sound of their boots running away, about lying paralyzed in the dirt, alone. Then she thought about Connor sprinting through graves to reach her, about Victoria diving into a combat zone without hesitation. I want in, Mara said suddenly. Both of them turned. What? Victoria asked. Your operation? Whatever you do, I want in. Mara's voice was steady now, certain. I'm done with standard protocol, done with acceptable losses. If you're pulling people out of impossible situations, I want to help. Connor studied her face. It's dangerous work. I just got paralyzed and nearly froze to death in an alien graveyard. I think I can handle dangerous. Victoria laughed. Actually laughed. She's got spirit. I'll give her that. Connor extended his hand. Welcome aboard. Mara shook it. The ship jumped, leaving Cathara Prime behind. Connor's ship was a modified deep space hauler called the Exodus, hidden in the shadow of a massive asteroid. Mara had expected something sleek and military. Instead, she got a beaten-up freighter that looked like it had survived 3 wars and a solar flare. She's not pretty, Connor admitted as they docked, but she's got redundant systems on top of redundant systems, and she's fast when she needs to be. Inside, the Exodus was surprisingly well organized. Medical bay, armory, living quarters, a command deck with enough sensor equipment to rival a military frigate. This wasn't just a ship. It was a mobile operations base. Victoria immediately headed for the medical bay, gesturing for Mara to follow. I need to run a full scan, make sure the antitoxin didn't miss anything. 20 minutes later, Mara was cleared. No residual toxin. No nerve damage, just bruising and exhaustion. Victoria prescribed rest and real food, both of which sounded impossibly good. But as Mara was leaving the medical bay, the ship's proximity alarms went off. Connor's voice came through the intercom. We've got company. Both of you to the command deck. Now. They ran. Connor was already at the sensors when they arrived, his expression grim. On the main display, a ship was approaching. Not Vrexian. Human design. Military configuration. Transponder identified it as the UNS Valiant, a colonial defense frigate. That's a search and rescue vessel, Mara said, recognizing the designation. They must be looking for survivors from my squad. They're hailing us, Connor said. He didn't sound relieved. Victoria crossed her arms. This is going to be complicated. Connor opened the channel. A woman's face appeared on screen. Officer's uniform. Captain's insignia. Sharp features and eyes that had seen too much combat. Unidentified vessel. This is Captain Diane Foster of the UNS Valiant. We're tracking a distress signal from one of our rangers. Mara Flynn. We have reason to believe she may be in this sector. The captain's gaze was direct, uncompromising. If you have information about her status, you're required under colonial law to report it immediately. Connor glanced at Mara. The question was clear in his eyes. Your call. Mara stepped forward into the camera's view. Captain Foster, this is Ranger Flynn. I'm alive. Currently aboard a civilian vessel that extracted me from Cathara Prime. Foster's expression shifted. Relief, then confusion, then something harder. Ranger Flynn. Your squad reported you as KIA after a Vrexian ambush. They said recovery was impossible. She paused. How did you survive? These people pulled me out, Mara said simply. After my squad left me. The silence on the other end was heavy. Foster's jaw tightened. Ranger, I'm going to need you to transfer to the Valiant immediately. We'll debrief you and arrange transport back to your unit. No, Mara said. Foster blinked. Excuse me? I'm declining transfer, Captain. I'm resigning my commission with Colonial Defense, effective immediately. Ranger Flynn, you can't just— Actually, I can, Mara interrupted. Section 7 of the Defense Charter. Any active personnel who survives abandonment in hostile territory has the right to immediate discharge without penalty. No cooling-off period. No mandatory review. She'd memorized that regulation years ago, never thinking she'd use it. I'm invoking that right. Foster's face went carefully neutral. I see. And you're doing this because my squad left me paralyzed in a graveyard to die, and these civilians risked everything to save me? That tells me everything I need to know about where I belong. Connor and Victoria remained silent, letting Mara handle it. Foster studied her through the screen. You realize what you're giving up? Benefits? Pension, military protection. I realize what I'm gaining, Mara countered. Self-respect. For a long moment, Foster said nothing. Then she nodded slowly. I'll process the discharge. It'll take 48 hours to clear through command. Her expression softened slightly. For what it's worth, Flynn, your squad leader is facing a formal inquiry. Abandoning personnel without confirmed KIA status violates about 6 different protocols. He's going to answer for it. Good, Mara said. Foster's eyes shifted to Connor. You're the one who pulled her out? Yes, ma'am. Then you have my thanks. Officially off the record. Foster straightened. Flynn, your discharge papers will be transmitted within 2 days. Until then, you're technically still on the roster, which means I'm required to log your position. She paused deliberately. But our sensors are reading some unusual interference in this sector. Lots of static. Makes it hard to get an accurate fix on anything. Connor caught on immediately. Asteroid belt does that. Heavy mineral deposits. Exactly, Foster agreed. So I'll log that we made contact but couldn't establish your exact coordinates due to environmental interference. That should buy you some time before anyone else comes looking. She leaned forward slightly. Stay safe, Ranger. And good luck with whatever comes next. The transmission ended. Victoria let out a breath. Well, that could have gone worse. She gave us cover, Connor said, impressed. Foster knows exactly what we are, and she's giving us a head start anyway. Mara felt something unknot in her chest. Her old life was over. The squad, the military structure, the protocols that valued mission success over individual lives, all of it gone. And she felt free. So what now? She asked. Connor pulled up a star chart. Now we wait out the 48 hours somewhere quiet. Then we start teaching you how we operate. He pointed to a system 3 jumps away, neutral station. Good food, better intel networks. We can lay low and plan our next move. Next move? Mara asked. Victoria smiled. There's always someone who needs pulling out of a bad situation. We just need to find them. The Exodus's engines hummed to life. Connor plotted the first jump. Mara stood between him and Victoria on the command deck, watching the stars shift as they prepared to leave. Somewhere behind them, the Valiant was already transmitting her discharge request. Somewhere ahead, someone was probably dying in a situation everyone else had decided was hopeless. And for the first time in years, Mara felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. 3 weeks later, Mara stood in the Exodus cargo bay, checking her gear for the 5th time. New armor. Lighter than military issue, but tougher. Custom weapons optimized for rescue operations, not prolonged combat. A medical kit that could handle everything from toxin exposure to plasma burns. She looked the part now, felt it too. Nervous? Victoria asked, walking past with an equipment case. Focused, Mara corrected. Their target was a mining colony on Helix Station. 6 human workers trapped in a collapsed shaft after a corporate safety violation caused a cave-in. The company had declared rescue unfeasible, too expensive, too dangerous. They'd already written off the workers as losses and moved on. But the workers' families hadn't moved on. They'd pooled everything they had and hired Connor's crew. 2 minutes to station perimeter, Connor called from the cockpit. Security is going to be tight. The company doesn't want anyone proving their negligence. Mara joined him at the console. The station loomed ahead, a sprawling industrial complex built into an asteroid. Dozens of security drones patrolled the exterior. Armed guards at every dock. We're not fighting our way in, Connor continued. We're going quiet. Maintenance access tunnel on the station's lower ring. Should get us within 50 meters of the collapse site. Should? Mara asked. Connor grinned. I love how you're already picking up on the important words. They docked at a civilian port under false transponder codes. 3 cargo haulers, nothing special. Victoria had forged the documentation perfectly. Security waved them through without a second look. The maintenance tunnel was exactly where Connor's intel said it would be. Narrow, dark, filled with pipes and conduit that made progress slow. But it got them past the guards and the cameras. Mara moved through the cramped space with practiced efficiency. 3 weeks of training with Connor and Victoria had sharpened skills she didn't know she had. Reading terrain, anticipating threats, moving like a ghost when necessary. They reached the collapse site 12 minutes ahead of schedule. 6 workers were huddled in a pocket of space barely large enough to stand in. Oxygen was running low. One man had a broken leg. Another had internal bleeding from falling debris. They looked up when Connor dropped through the access hatch, and Mara saw the exact moment hope replaced despair in their eyes. "We're getting you out," Connor said simply. Victoria went to work immediately, stabilizing the injured, while Connor and Mara rigged support beams to prevent further collapse. It was precision work. One wrong move and the entire shaft could come down on top of them. Mara worked fast, faster than she'd ever worked in the military, because this wasn't about following protocol or calculating acceptable losses. This was about 6 people who deserved to go home. Extraction route is clear, Connor confirmed. But we need to move now. Station security just figured out we're here. They moved. Victoria and Mara carried the injured workers, while Connor guided the others through the maintenance tunnels. Behind them, alarms blared, boots pounded on metal grating. Security was closing in. But Connor had planned for this. Every turn, every corridor, every backup route. By the time security reached the collapse site, they were already back at the docks. The Exodus launched before the station could lock down the ports. 6 rescued workers strapped in the cargo bay. Security drones gave chase, but Connor outflew them easily, jumping to hyperspace before anyone could scramble interceptors. In the cargo bay, one of the rescued workers grabbed Mara's hand. Tears streamed down his face. "They left us. The company just left us. But you came." Mara squeezed his hand. "That's what we do." Hours later, after they'd transferred the workers to their families at a neutral station, Mara stood on the Exodus observation deck. Connor joined her, carrying 2 drinks. "You did good today," he said. "We did good," Mara corrected. Connor smiled. "Fair enough." He looked out at the stars. "You know, when I found you in that graveyard, I wasn't thinking about recruiting you. I was just thinking about getting you out alive. What changed? You did. Most people we rescue, they're grateful. They move on with their lives, but you wanted to be part of this, wanted to pull others out of the dark." He turned to her. "That's rare. That's what makes someone like us." Victoria's voice came through the intercom. "We've got another job." Distress signal from the outer reach. Corporate prison transport went dark 3 days ago. Families think there are survivors. Connor looked at Mara. "You ready?" Mara thought about the graveyard, about lying paralyzed, watching her squad abandon her, about the moment Connor appeared, refusing to leave her behind. She thought about the 6 miners they'd just saved, about the look in their eyes when hope returned. She thought about every person out there right now, trapped in some impossible situation, waiting for someone to care enough to come for them. "I'm ready," she said. The Exodus changed course, heading toward the outer reach, toward another impossible rescue, toward people who needed them, because that's what humans did. They ran toward the danger. They defied the odds. They refused to accept that anyone was truly beyond saving, and they never, ever left their own behind.